Hey everybody, hope y'all are doing well. I wanted to touch on a common theme with people on the left, and it's called postmodernism. In a simple way, postmodernism is essentially the concept of redefining long established truths, long established ideas, long established themes, things of that nature. And for the most part, it's quite bad. And it's common on the left. And let me explain what I mean by that. You see it all the time, especially now in our modern day and age. You see it all the time, where someone would say an objective truth is that 2 + 2 = 4, right? It's not as simple as that, but you'll see a common theme when I fully describe this. People on the left are redefining issues. They're changing the basic definition of a lot of important issues, themes, and words. And so, one example, particularly among black people on the left, is this new trend of redefining what racism is. And we know that racism has long been defined as the idea of a race being superior over another, right? In some way, having a advantage over another race. Therefore, you are supreme over that other one. You know what I mean? That's textbook racism. But now, people on the left are starting to redefine that. They'll say, well, racism really isn't that. Here's what racism is. Racism is having a bias towards certain people groups and having institutional power, right? So it's those two things together that equates to actual racism. And as a result, because of this new mindset, a lot of black people don't think that they can therefore be racist, that it's impossible for them to be racist, particularly because they do not have institutional power. A lot of people who have this postmodernist mindset, they don't think of the consequences of thinking that way. I mean, if you're going to die on the hill of racism being institutional power over racial bias, if that's really racism, then you would have to recognize that by logic, it's simple logic, that Hitler was not racist for the majority of his life. He wasn't really racist. Hitler wasn't racist at all until he came into power, right? And that's foolish. That is an immensely foolish thing. By that same definition, no one can be racist unless they have institutional power and a general bias against another race of people. Hitler Hitler was one of the worst people in human history to have a form of institutional power. He believed that the world, especially Europe at the time, was a better place without Jews. This led to the execution and murder of millions and millions of Jews. Other people were definitely killed among them, but it was obviously focused on Jews. To say that this man was not a racist until he had the power to oppress millions of people by killing them, and of course other means, to say that is really foolish. That is a really, really, really foolish thing to say. And a lot of people on the left don't think of the consequences, the repercussions of what changing these definitions do. Another great example, which is a common theme in our modern society now, is that men and women are fundamentally the same. Like they have no difference really. In fact, you can be whatever you want to be as far as a man or a woman. If you're a man, you can be a woman now. If you're a woman, you can be a man now, right? This idea that the long-defined traits of being a man and being a woman, the idea that that's no longer relevant, is immensely destructive to society. You know, men aren't really defined as human beings with X and Y chromosomes and male genitalia and stuff like that, right? Having generally much more testosterone than women, you know what I mean? Women are no longer defined as human beings with both X chromosomes, you know? Known to have more estrogen, capable of giving birth to human beings. That's not really a woman. That doesn't define a woman for people on the left now. And so, because of that way of thinking, transgenderism is taking a significant toll on specific parts of life right now. And a pure example of this is when men become transgender women. They demand that they be referred to as a woman. They believe that they are a woman in spite of the obvious differences. When these men therefore enter the field of female sports, you know, female athletics and competition, and dominate these fields, we've heard news about this time and time again. You know, a transgender woman enters the field of female wrestling and flies to the top. Transgender female enters female running competition and gets first place. Big surprise. Who knew? And so you know that a lot of these girls and women in these fields of sports have to be very frustrated with the idea of a man entering their field and beating them. You know that. But because people have this mindset, they can't change, they can't speak out about it because it's the new trend, it's the new thing. And so a lot of people on the left are, for the time being, seem to be willing to die on this hill, and they're facing the consequences of that now. But a lot of people are afraid to speak up about it, right? A lot of women in these fields are not willing to speak up about it because they'll be, you know, socially outcasts as a result. And so this is a real problem. You know, you see this everywhere, you know, now that I've kind of discussed it more and more, if you weren't aware of what I meant by it. But it's everywhere, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And the consequences are becoming more and more dire as a result. So anyway, I need to jet. It's about time for me to get to work. Let me know what you guys think about this. Definitely let me know what you think about this issue, because this is a very real problem. You know, you hear it. For example, people will say, well, I know those are numbers. I know those are statistics. But what I feel is, you know, you've noticed that common way of thinking lately. You know, a black man might be more likely to be struck by lightning than shot unarmed by a cop. But I feel like, you know what I mean? When in reality the facts are the facts, but your feelings matter more. That's a common theme when it comes to a lot of liberalism. And that's a really big problem. Very, very, very big problem. So anyway, I got a jet. Let me know what y'all think about that, because it's a real problem, and it's just getting worse and worse. And hopefully, at some point, this ideal will fall through the floor, and people will realize that it was a terrible mistake to go down that path of redefining things. I hope y'all have a good day, and I'll talk to y'all later.